Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Hivemind After Hours podcast. Got another band interview today with Tyler of Saving Vice, here with Justin and Jacob, as per usual. Derek could not be here tonight, unfortunately. But we have a new single to talk about and some other stuff with Tyler of Saving Vice tonight. So, how are you all doing?
I am very good. How are you?
I'm stressed out, but I'm excited for this. So,
I started a work promotion last week, and we've been doing the training for that, and it's just been a lot of manuals. I do insurance, so I've been looking through contracts and trying not to blow my brains out.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And I'm trying to graduate from college, trying not to blow my brains out as well. So, you know.
Well, hey, let's all just take a pact of solidarity to none of us blow our brains out.
Yes, hopefully.
That would not be ideal. That would not be ideal in many situations. Anyway, to get back on track, you guys are releasing a brand new song called White Rabbit. Hopefully, it'll be out by the time we air this episode. So I want to talk about the new song, the new tour that you guys are coming out with at the end of the month, and just other stuff with the band in general. But before we get into the episode, do you want to shout out any social media for Saving Vice for anyone that's interested?
Oh yeah, obviously you can just search Saving Vice pretty much anywhere and it'll come up. But our Instagram handle and Twitter, it's just at Saving Vice. We have a website with all of our stuff. It's just savingvice.com. I highly recommend you check that out. But yeah, it's pretty hard not to find us if you're looking for us. Yeah. Go check it out.
Keeping the social simple. Nice.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
We're really sticklers for making everything as like spoon fed and accessible as possible. So
there's definitely some bands out there that don't, and it has caused me a headache before. So
if I spend more than 5 seconds looking for the song on your profile, the day it comes out, like I'm not even looking anymore usually. So it's like,
yeah. All right, so I guess let's get started then with the new song, White Rabbit. So you guys said in the press release, which we got to set up this interview, that it's the first ever quote unquote radio song. I don't know if you necessarily agree with that or not, but it definitely feels like the softest that you guys have gone.
Yeah, before. I mean, if you sense So Safe, which was on our album Hello There, that was, I think, the only other song that wasn't. I'm trying to think. Yeah, that's not an acoustic song. I think that's the only one where it's just all singing, and there wasn't like a breakdown or anything. The difference on this one was that we incorporated Chase now that he started doing the spoken word and the rapping stuff. So, it was kind of like if So Safe and Phantom Pain kind of had a brainchild, and then sprinkled like Poppy or Linkin Park on it. I don't really know. I feel like there's a lot of influences in it, but I don't really feel like Phantom Pain or that sound like any other bands in like a good way. But I think you can definitely hear like the modern influence and the old influence, and like there was definitely a deliberate intention to what we did. But I think we did a good job of keeping it sounding like us, which we had to because we're taking such a leap from like the really heavy metalcore stuff we've done in the past, and that we still are doing like on this same album. So making sure that it transitioned and the spectrum wasn't too jarring was something we kind of experimented with on Hello There, and it worked really well. So we kind of know our formula now. So we're getting a little more bold with it, I guess. And this song was definitely like, okay, well, Phantom Pain, people still told us it was too heavy for this, that, and this. So it was like, we can write a dope, catchy song and like incorporate me and Chase now. We don't have to have breakdowns and screams. Like it'd be cool to just write something, like numb, like Linkin Park level. You know what I mean? Where it could be that it could be that marketable. So and that's what I'm pretty hyped on it. I personally think it's like the catchiest chorus I've ever written. We did self-produce that whole song also, just like Dying to Watch.
Oh, nice.
That's good. Yeah. We did get an early listen to this before it did drop. And,
okay, cool.
Yeah, we were able to listen to it. And I think I've been listening to you guys for a little bit. like since after Hello There dropped, Phantom Pain was one that I was actually really liking. But this I think is probably my favorite release from you guys.
I agree.
Derek, the one who's not here with us, he is a huge fan of Hello There, and he considers to be vocally heavier than White Rabbit. He was surprised that it was mostly cleans, but he really enjoyed it. What inspired you guys to lean more into the clean vocals? Was it just everyone saying the Phantom Pain was too heavy? Try something a bit different?
No, that was just like the reason we were dropping this song next, was to just have something that could cast a wider net for us,
Right.
because we kind of need to do that.
Mhm.
We can't really miss those chances. It's always smart, I think, to do, if you're gonna do light heavy music together, you should do a heavy single and a light single, and maybe the next single we're dropping after this is like probably one of the heaviest songs we've ever released. It kind of sounds like the Binary EP and Colder Than Dark had a baby.
If Derek was here, I know his ears would be up after hearing that.
Oh, yeah, no.
So that song is the first of the 2 singles we recorded with JD, who used to be in Ice Nine Kills. He recorded the new the new Motionless in White album. So we did 2 songs with him to kind of try to step outside of our comfort zone a little bit.
Mhm.
And he did have some cool ideas that changed. Excuse me, sorry. I think we're all tired and stressed up. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, it's just the time of recording.
Yeah, I was gonna say he did have some cool ideas. There was like some tempo changes that he suggested, and I remember he wanted to do too many, and we were like, this isn't us. Like, I want it to sound like we're evolving and trying new things, but like, I don't want us to sound like something we straight up just we're not. You know what I mean?
Right.
But other than that, like, one thing that we've been really focused on lately is kind of taking pride in the fact that like no one's written any of our shit for us, and so like we want to take new influence and ideas so we can grow as musicians and everything, from producers and stuff. But we basically left for the most part with the pre-production songs that we went in with. You know what I mean? Just leveled up and dressed up and sauced up, and with the the edges sanded off, so to speak. So I'm pretty stoked on it, and I'm just hyped for people to kind of see how far we managed to kind of stretch the boundary of how light we can go and how heavy we can go in the same space and have it make sense. And that was one of the reasons we did what we did with the Hello There, was to kind of set people up for that expectation. So when you have a band like maybe Bring Me the Horizon, for example, and you suddenly do something kind of out of pocket, people aren't so distracted by the fact that you wrote lighter music that they don't just stop to enjoy the song you wrote. So I think
Right.
people will be able to listen to White Rabbit and just love it for what it is, which I think it's an awesome song, and not be concerned that we went light because we just dropped Dying to Watch. And anybody who does think that we went lighter is going to be like, holy shit, when the next song drops. Like, trust me. So
Well, yeah, I was about to say, it was like before this, the other release that you guys had earlier this year was Damage Plan with Patient 67. And
I always forget about that, because it's like,
yeah, that was fucking heavy as hell.
Yeah, and that like, but also like that song was already written though. So, but then
Right.
again, a lot of our fans, I'm sure, thought that was just a new song we wrote because they weren't paying attention to. You know what I mean? And so I think it did sound like it could have been something like we did, but I think it very much sounded like not Saving Vice 2, which I thought was why it was cool, was to hear our vocals over another band's, I guess, version of metalcore. They have I think they have a unique sort of rhythm to what they do with their guitars, where it's like this genty radio thing, which is kind of cool. And Tom's vocals are very unique. Like, there aren't a lot of screamers I've heard who sound like him. So I think one of their strengths is that you can pick him out of a crowd, which I thought was cool. Which is why hearing his tone on our song I thought was so sweet, because it was it's such a tone you don't normally hear, where there's like probably 10 other vocalists we could have done a swap with, and like, if you weren't picking a certain 3 or 4, the other 4, it's like you might not have been able to even tell who it was without looking it up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Another question that we really didn't have planned, but I think we should probably have hit on beforehand. What started the band? Like, how did
Oh
you guys
man,
actually form?
this is like of course I always get hit with this one because it's pretty simple.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it's just condensing this story into a nutshell just gets harder every month. Um, let's see. Robbie like got into music kind of late in the game at like late high school, senior high school era. Want to start a band when he was in his dorm in college. Craig listed a few guys. Some worked out, some didn't. Chase was one of them. I got hit up to model merch, and then it turns out they needed a vocalist, and I just wanted to play some live shows, but I was like, I had just kind of gotten over not being in a band anymore from before, and had kind of finally had like a job and stuff, and I was like, I guess I had my shot. Like, I shouldn't take another. I took my swing, whatever. I guess I should just give up because I live in Vermont. It's so quiet. Like, you kind of just get in this habit of like, oh, you're like 22, time to give up and get married. Like it's just like there's not that's what people do around here because there's nothing else to do. And I had
Right.
kind of just been in a slump. And then I just played some shows, and then next thing you know, we had a manager, and then we were recording, the EP. We opened with Devil's Prada, and they were playing festivals and Warped Tour, and Colder Than Dark came out, and it was like charted in the top like 10 on iTunes, and it was just
Oh,
crazy.
wow.
And then it's just
That-
like, yeah, shit just spiraled. It was just like over and over these like one hit wonder scenarios that just wouldn't stop domino affecting. And we went, and that was like 2017, 18 was when like we kind of I first started hanging out, playing shows with them to when we dropped Colder Than Dark. And then, Hello There obviously came out the week before, right before lockdown. And then, all those other singles and random songs and the Binary EP was all stuff we kind of just did over COVID because we couldn't really do anything else. So we just got in we were just writing and releasing music like nonstop. And yeah, now, we got like Phantom Pain and Dying to Watch and now White Rabbit. So that'll be 3 singles off the next album that will be out, which has not been officially named or has a release plan, but it'll be like early 2023, I would imagine. Obviously, we
Right.
would have liked it to be sooner, but we don't have a label to front us like, 20 grand, which is what we kind of need to finish everything we want to do right now. So, but we got there'll be at least 2 more songs after White Rabbit before the album's out that we drop. So, and then hopefully the album official artwork and all that stuff will get announced. So hopefully late fall, winter. I would
Yeah.
imagine. But yeah,
That
the
that
band, that's how it started pretty much, was just Robbie kind of built this thing, and then he just went to school for music theory, was a really good, just naturally good songwriter, picked up recording, picked up production over the summer of lockdown, has his own studio now, and we're recording our own stuff. It was just like, I think a lot of it came from just my past experience, and Robbie's just savant kind of thing. And then we just had to gather enough people who had the same motivation and commitment that we did, and now that we have that, it's just a business we're growing at this point, and just trying to get that one break. Like, I'm hoping this will be one of those things, this tour that we're doing with Lil Xan, but and I'd love to come back around with a really cool metalcore tour, in the fall. But there's a lot of stuff up in the air right now.
I guess we can talk about that tour a little bit because
Yeah.
you guys are a metalcore band. So touring with Lil Xan definitely is like a mix of genres that I don't feel like many fans would have traditionally expected in a way. So how did that
Me
come
neither.
to be? How are you feeling about being
I
on
mean,
that tour?
I think it's definitely funny that it's like Lil Xan of all people, because obviously he's kind of a controversial figure for his name alone, but no, he's all like, it's kind of cool too, because my drummer and my guitarist are also both, sober, and my drummer is now a treatment specialist actually. But yeah, Lil Xan's like, he's like sober and clean and trying to kind of like go, but well, obviously he was a fucking kid who was like got sucked into that whole emo rap and Xanax shit and got prescribed shit, and when he was young, and got hooked on it when he was young, and did whatever he did. I never really followed him like super closely myself, but yeah, he's like trying to turn his shit around and rebrand and kind of relaunch his career. And our agent is also booking him right now. So she kind of just ran it by him about the whole metal band idea because there are obviously Dropout Kings is going, who we just toured with in the fall,
Right.
and they're like rap metal, and
It
that was
feels like
actually
the
really-
glue between you guys and Lil Xan in a way. Dropout Kings is like almost a mesh of the two styles in a way, bringing the whole
yeah,
thing together.
yeah. They're like Linkin Park meets Zillakami, They're like City Morgue. So it's like it was very much, I think, a good spread of what a lot of kids are kind of listening to, and the perfect genre mesh after all this stuff with like Bring Me the Horizons and happening, and like the bridges that band, whether you like them or not, MGK and Oliver Sykes have kind of made between those worlds, with like the Youngblood collab to Ed Sheeran. So I looked at this very much as, hey, we're gonna get to maybe convert all these little Peep fans into metal fans. You know what I mean? Like that's, and then
Yeah.
plus see all the fans that we have in all these cities on top of that, and obviously we conveniently, we're strategic about dropping White Rabbit, so now we have this like rap singing song that we can perform every night that I think will really pull in that mainstream crowd who might not, it's just one more song to make us a little more accessible to people who might not be into it. But even before then, we've always been told, even by like people who've brought their like elderly parents to shows, you know what I mean? People like just who you never expect, like, oh, I really enjoyed it. Like, I don't like that kind of music, but it was like really fun, or I really liked it, right? I didn't like screaming till I heard you guys. So like, I think being a gateway band already on top of like this kind of new stuff that we're doing that's a little more digestible if you're not, a fan, I just think it's a very perfect timing, but who knows, you know what I mean? I don't really know what to expect. I just think it'll be interesting. That's for sure,
It feels like a really cool opportunity to open yourselves up to just a completely new crowd.
Yeah, exactly. And honestly, I feel like almost to some end, it's like harder and scarier in some ways, but in other ways, it's like it's a lot easier to impress people in that area because they don't really have as many gatekeepy standards when it comes to like they don't have all those band presumptions, you know what I mean? Like I don't even know what kids who only listen to like Juice World and Lil Xan argue about, with rap, with like over what makes one better than the other, you know what I mean? But I know that they're not there being like, oh man, I can't believe that snare sounds like that. They're probably just there being like, holy shit, this is catchy and loud and fucking so much fun, and I just don't want to stop moving, which is pretty much what I aim to do, is just hopefully get that vibe with whoever's in the audience, and hopefully the rest just, they'll follow along and look us up.
I feel like that's one of the things I've noticed when I like bring my friends who don't normally listen to this type of music to shows. They're like always like, I didn't really enjoy the music, but it's still fun to watch. It's like it's always a good time.
Yeah, and it's like it's a show. It's
Yeah.
like it's an energy and an atmosphere that you have to experience like a metal
Yeah.
show or a hardcore show. And we are very much, I feel like we try to be a very cinematic band. Like I don't know if any of you guys have ever been to a show, but our energy on stage is pretty up there. You know what I mean? Like it's a lot of
Yeah.
movement, and it gets people
I always
hyped.
love that.
It
I
gets
always love
people
that.
hyped,
Yep.
Like it makes them, you jump and they jump, it's fun.
Yeah, a good atmosphere from the band can always make a great like mark on me. Like it's always like, oh, that's always memorable when the band seems really into it, as opposed to like, oh, they're just standing there with a mic stand screaming.
Oh yeah, and granted, I understand that, like to some degree,
Yeah.
especially harder songs to do vocally, especially. But like, I mean, I still remember shows from like 10 plus years ago where it was just like, I remember during this build up to the breakdown, the screamer was shirtless and was like chugging a beer, like he was chugging a beer and pounding his chest and like spitting the beer out while the breakdown was coming before he screamed. And I never forget that. I don't remember what song
Yeah.
it was. You know what I'm saying? Like I just remember being like, that was sick. Like that guy,
Yeah.
he looked so into it, like he was possessed. And it's like, it's like going to see a magician. Like obviously it's a performance when they're acting all like, I am doing sorcery, when it's just like fucking smoke and mirrors. You're going for a show, you know?
Yep.
Yeah, I definitely agree, and especially that's kind of like the divide on how you really separate like good bands from like local bands. You can kind of tell when local bands with smaller production, um, if they can still put on an amazing show, like that's when they'll exceed. So
Yeah, well, and it's all confidence. You know what I mean? It's just like
Mhm.
you just gotta
right,
go in and know what you're selling and just do it. Like, and our thing that we've did since our very first show was play like there's 100 people plus. Play like there's 1,000, even if there's three and one of them's drinking at the bar not looking at you. And that I remember there was literally like 5 kids, 5 people. I wouldn't even want to say kids because some of them weren't kids at all. Were in the crowd, literally just at this bar in Maine in the middle of the winter. And it was the first show I'd played in like 3 years plus maybe. And I just remember like jumping off the stage and just going all nuts. And like there was like 5 people just standing there, but we just deliver it, and then someone
right.
always comes up after and is like, "Oh shit, like that," you know what I mean? And like you get that one person, they tell two, next time it's six, and that was kind of what we've always done is just, hey, just black out and just charm the snake. Don't let the snake charm you.
Yeah, that's a good way to
Definitely
put
a
it.
good mentality as well.
It's like if you believe in yourself, it's gonna rub off on the audience eventually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one of the bit worst things I see it all the time with bands that open for us now, it's like the worst thing you can do is like mirror the crowd in a bad, like it's one thing to adjust, like you're not going to be like, I want to see it, you're not like, you wouldn't ask for a wall of death if 10 people are there, like there's reading the room, and then there's like in recognizing your engagement with the audience, and then there's like mirroring the crowd. You never want to mirror the crowd. So if you're going all out and you're having a blast and the crowd's not really moving, and then you see the band, like they start to, like, they don't make as much eye contact because now they feel like they suck because people aren't moving, and then you noticeably see their attitudes and their energy sink, and like you lost it. You know what I mean? Like you lost
The
you
mental
lost it.
battle.
Yeah, it's like you got to just power through that. And like we always just play like, oh, like you don't know who we are, but in 3 songs you're fucking going to. And almost every
Right.
single time we play a new city, by the time we get like halfway through the set list, the room is like from like 20% to like 80% as far as energy goes. Like the more people are moshing, jumping, headbanging, like actually, or at least smiling and tapping their feet. Sometimes it's just because they're so busy just watching us, because we just come out guns blazing. Like no matter how small the venue is or how small the atmosphere is, like we always go over the top. And so a lot of time people are so busy just being like, holy shit, like to
Just like
really
thrown back by everything.
they're almost too busy just watching us play and listening that you can tell because they're just staring. Like, and they're not moving. And it's like they're not moving because you suck. They're not moving because you kind of have them just
Captivated in a
watching.
way.
Yeah. Just like, so you can't. But you don't. But rather, either way, it's like you don't really know. So you gotta just assume the best and just do it. Because the worst thing you can do is play worse because you think they don't like you. How is that possibly going to help your situation? So assume they like you and just play like they. So it's like I always say, like, hey, you got to play as if they're dumb for not knowing who you are, and you're showing them why. Like that's what I at least try to tell myself.
I like
What
that.
what got you guys on that bill with Lil Xan and Dropout Kings?
So because like I said, I think I might have been talking too fast earlier, but we are technically currently on Mac Agency, which is the same booking agency that Dropout Kings and Lil Xan are on right now. So it just
Okay.
happened to work out. Yeah.
I think to tie up this discussion then, given this like multi-genre tour, can we expect any more influences from like rap or hip hop, like instrumentally, vocally, on upcoming songs from you guys? Now that you are like going to be more intertwined with this kind of scene in a way.
Yeah, and I mean, yeah, for sure, because it's something that Chase has wanted to do for a long time, but we weren't really in a place to execute it before Phantom Pain. So it was kind of something where we were very nervous about doing it because it could, like, that kind of stuff it can backfire on you so hard. It's so easy to be cringy when you're a metal band that brings rap into your shit, especially if it's like one of your screamers doing the rap. So luckily I think it complemented the cadence in which Chase screams anyways, because he has this kind of poetic, rappy rhythm to his screams. It was almost like he just turned off the scream and just spoke his parts instead. Like, because there's a couple songs, like our song Nerve Damage, we were just playing around with it, and he was just rapping his screaming parts, and it sounded just as good because it just had the same, like, punch to it. But yeah, like we have I can tell you that one of the songs we did with JD has rap on it. Actually has the most rap on it of anything we've actually done yet.
That's interesting.
And I'd say it's like Phantom Pain's like big buff older brother. Like,
That's
I was
not
about
what
to
I-
say,
that's
Phantom
not
Pain
what
was
I'd expect.
already pretty rap
yeah,
heavy.
like yeah, I'd say it's because it's like Chase is doing most of the verses on this one, and I'm just doing the chorus, and then like I'm on the breakdown. But it's like the first song that SV's ever dropped, where like now that Chase doesn't just scream, he's like rapping over parts where normally I probably would have been singing everything, and because it had a
Right.
beat to it. So I'd say it's like a healthy mix of like Phantom Pain with a little you might want to, I don't know if I'd say like Motionless in White Falling in Reverse spliced into it, but with just more of Chase rapping than you've heard yet, I would say.
And I feel like it's really cool to like see the diversity in your guys' sound. Where it's like if you have this potential to like try and experiment with these things, like why not make use of them, Instead of like shoving yourself into a corner of like we are just metalcore,
I agree, and also I think makes most albums really boring and easy to forget about because, like, I mean, and there are some people who are just those addicts who just fucking love metalcore that much, but I can't name many. I couldn't name 5 albums, like metal albums in the past year or two where I liked more than 4 songs, or I remember more than 4 songs, 3 or even 2. It's like you get those so many albums where it's like, oh yeah, it's those 2 singles, and you go through because you're on their Spotify, and it's like 2 million plays, 1 million plays, and then the rest are like 50,000.
Yeah.
So it's like I don't ever want that. So that's why we tried to set ourselves up as a band that can have that diversity, and it's well received because of bands like Bring Me the Horizon and Motionless in White, who have like kind of pushed the envelope as far as how far you can go as a metal band with your sound. I would say, even though I think Motionless in White stayed a lot more consistent. But
I would definitely agree with that.
Yeah, having but yeah, it's great. It makes me feel like we could never run out of ideas because there's so many things we could do.
Yeah. I feel like I've always said that like I'm a fan of metalcore, but metalcore albums are also generally the most likely to just be the epitome of average for me of like any genre that I'm into, where it's like the peak of metalcore is insane, but I feel like a lot of it just blends together and doesn't stand out.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
A lot of it
more
can
so
be
than any
really-
other genre. I feel like metalcore tends to blend together for me.
It's because
a lot of it can be really, really heavy white noise. So
yeah, it's like it can be too. I think if it's too simple and not unique, it blends in, and then if it's too genty and complicated, it also turns into white noise. It's like you have to just be a good songwriter, just like you. And I think to make good metalcore, unless you're in that more metallic hardcore style, like Knock Loose or Degrader or something like that. I'd say like you have to be a good songwriter, like in the way that Ed Sheeran's a good songwriter. You know what I mean? Because those bands that can write a radio song and do metalcore because they know how to structure a song, they know how to make a song catchy and have a repeating line or whatever it is.
And have it get stuck in the audience's head.
Yeah, and like I think there's an edge to it where to survive in this whole like melting pot of oversaturated stuff, you have to be able to do something outside the box, or you like because the box, it's like you can't tell anything. It's like it's like having 5 black shirts on the floor, and you're like, oh, which one do you want to wear? I don't fucking know.
That's
Like,
literally my closet.
it's like I only remember, but that one's got a fucking sweet zipper on it, so I can always tell that one apart from the others. So I'm gonna wear the cool zipper one. That's how you gotta have a cool zipper if you're gonna stand out in this genre.
That's a really silly analogy, but I kind of love it.
So I would like to say, like, it's like Chase rapping on our songs is like a dope zipper.
No, I fuck with it. I like it. I'm down for it. I'm down for more of it.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously,
more metalcore bands need their zippers.
Yeah, and to be quite honest, like I love a lot. Like it's weird because I don't like most pop music, but there is a lot of pop music that I just genuinely love because they were probably written by someone who's a genius, like Ed Sheeran. You know what I mean? But like, there's Taylor Swift songs, even like there's a reason why a lot of her songs translate to metalcore so well. It's because like because her choruses are very emotionally driven. Like she puts sadness and like anger into her lyrics and her melodies. And if you take a really catchy, sad, angry chorus and then put it between screams and a breakdown, it usually fucks. Like, and I listen to like a lot of like Spice Girls and fucking Jessie J and Halsey and like stuff like that because I like those catchy, soaring, bouncy choruses and I love being able to like twist that influence into our songs where it like it's very obvious but it doesn't stand out, you know? Like I had someone actually call us popcore when Phantom Pain came out, and I was like, I don't even hate that. I wouldn't want to go by it. I wouldn't want to go by that because so many people would shit on it. Like, and I think it would wall off a lot of people who would never discover our really heavy music because they would just assume we sound like White Rabbit or Phantom Pain all the time. But I actually kind of like that because I'd never heard that before, and I listen to a lot of pop music to write catchy vocal stuff for us,
Man, if only Derek was here right now, we'd be having a blast.
We hit on the Patient 67 collab a little bit. Are there any collabs planned?
Not planned. There's a lot that we want to do, but there's just so much because like we're so focused on trying to self-fund and produce this record right now that that was something that we had talked about doing a while ago, and it was great because it was like, oh, Australia, they're obviously a little bigger than us, but we have way more live presence and like social proof than they do, even though they have way more streams and like stuff like that. It's because they've put more into that style of it because it's harder to tour in Australia for a lot of reasons. Lockdown being one of them because they had like almost some of the worst lockdown situations. But there aren't a lot of places to tour out there, and it's very far spaced out. The few places there is. So it was very good for both of us, and it just made sense because we had this kind of big gap between Dying to Watch and White Rabbit coming out because we wanted to time White Rabbit with the tour. But I can tell you that we have like a cover song that we recorded that we're like sitting on that will probably come out in the summer. That's like it's like a cover of someone who like is prevalent in that Trippie Redd MGK kind of level. So it's like so I think that after coming off the Lil Xan tour and maybe having a lot of fans in that vein, I think that might be a good move is to drop a cover of a song that they're all familiar with.
Yeah.
That's like that's that's turned into our style. So that'll be cool. But other than that, it's really just trying to plan tours and we're trying to plan the album right now.
If you guys could have like a dream feature on one of your songs, like a dream artist or musician, who would it be?
I mean, we would all have different. I mean, there's a lot we would agree on, and believe it or not, Courtney Plant was supposed to be on Dying to Watch, but she went on a sabbatical from doing features right when we were going to ask her. Because it was right around that time where everyone was like, "Man, she's on every song."
Yeah, I remember that.
She got a little self-conscious about it, I guess, and so she didn't want to do it for us, which is fine. I don't think it needed her sound-wise as much as it was just cool. It would have been cool to do that collab. Like I'd say my dream collab is definitely it's probably a tie between Nothing Nowhere and Halsey.
Dude, if
No, that
Derek was
nowhere
here,
would be
if
good.
Derek was
Yeah.
here right now,
Derek would jump in on that
Yeah.
because, like, both of those bands, I know he's been really into Nothing Nowhere recently.
I'm pretty
'cause
sure
Nothing
Halsey
Nowhere
was
is
in his top 10 albums of some year recently. I'm
maybe.
not
Yeah,
sure on that.
Yeah.
Oh,
I don't
dude,
remember his lists.
that song Experiment on Me that Bring Me the Horizon wrote for her is like one of my
It's
favorite.
so good.
Oh
It's
my
really-
god,
It's really good.
That is like that's kind of where I want, not to take our whole sound, but that is like a perfect example of like, as far as like being like a rock, in having rock songs, I guess, that are more mainstream goes on our future albums. That song is the perfect idea of what I would like to do. Like I love that. I think that's one of the best. That's one of my favorite songs, like probably in the
I
past
actually
10
didn't-
years.
I didn't know Bring Me wrote that. That's interesting.
Yeah, or Jordan and Ollie.
Yeah.
Yep, and you can hear it though. The guitar.
Yeah,
like,
I can hear it now that you said it.
Yeah, it's
but
very,
I didn't know
very.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, isn't
Yeah.
that sick though?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would if she did a whole album that sounded like that. It would probably be my favorite album ever. But
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
and then Nothing Nowhere. I mean, like I remember his first EP or two back in like 2016, something like that was when I first, because he lives in Vermont where I live too. He has a ranch out in the woods called Reaper Ranch. Yeah, but yeah, I've been wanting that dude like saved. That was like before I joined SV. I was like the most depressed I've ever been. But his music like got me through like the worst year ever. And I've been obsessed ever since because he's never written a bad song. And now he's like really blowing up, which is sick.
Yeah,
And I like that he's on tour with Poor Stacy, and then Poor Stacy has like emo rap fans, but now they're doing heavy metal shit, and they have a song with Oliver Sykes. It's just like that whole. I'm so hyped to be a pioneer on whatever this giant genre mashup that's coming is.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, it's crazy to think about what we could be doing in a year or two, or what kind of lineups we'll be seeing.
hmm
You know,
Yeah, it's been really weird because I know back in like early 2010s, like punk was definitely the breakout genre in like the rock kind of metal sort of style, and now it's like R&B and rap is more getting influenced in it. It's just really weird to see the evolution of it.
well, you know what happened that I just never thought would happen is that all of those kids who went from like bullying goth kids to being goth kids because of like Lil Peep and XXX and all that shit
Right.
are actually, I always thought, oh, they're just gonna fucking drop it because it's a phase and go back to like putting those kids in trash cans. But they're actually evolving into liking like rock and metal
Mhm.
and actually transferring over. And I just never thought that would happen because obviously it's just such a tragically drastic jump between like Lil Peep and Architects. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
so it's
Yes.
just like it's hard to fathom that someone whose idea of like the best thing ever was that digesting like Gone with the Wind and appreciating it. I don't know, because it's just like whatever your standards were, if that was your cup of tea, I just didn't expect those people to like be able to, maybe bands like Linkin Park or My Chemical Romance, which I expect, you know what I mean? But I was just very surprised to see how many kids actually it acted like, I can't believe emo rap ended up acting as a gateway into rock and metal for a lot of people. I just never saw that coming, and it gave me a appreciation for that whole genre that I didn't really have before. Not necessarily because I was like salty or like, oh, I don't, but it was more so because it felt so much that like it was standing on the shoulders of everything that entire industry has done for like, 30 plus years, where no one ever gets a cent or ever gets the exposure or appreciation they should. And then all these guys just dress up like them and get laptops and Xanax and are like now like, and just exploding and like having the same impact but way bigger. And it was just kind of like, but none of them ever credited it back. Like none of them ever was like, it was very few of them were like, oh, you know what, I'm gonna like get Gerard Way on a song, you know what I mean, and like pay it forward or pay it back to like all of those artists who like sweat and slept in their cars to like you know what I mean, and you know all that shit to get it so that it could be socially acceptable to like paint your nails. You know what I mean? It was just like weird shit like that. It was just, but it all went full circle. So it's like in a lot of ways, I ate my words. You know.
Yeah, it's like painting nails, colored hair, like
And I'm just
that
using
sort of.
examples. Like those are very superficial things, but you know what I mean when I say that. You know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, no. I'm just saying, it's like it's weird to see it mainstream now because, I'm sure those that remember like those high school days where it's just like, oh, you have colored hair, you must be like some goth like
Or you're just
person or something.
bullied, or you stick out like a sore thumb, and it's. I always say it like
And
this: like it used to be if you saw a girl with a septum and dyed hair and Vans, that you knew they listened to metalcore,
Right.
and now it
Yeah.
means nothing.
Yeah.
Like, and that's what I mean. It used to be like I used to be able to be like, oh, you can always tell, like, oh yeah, yep, and then it's like, oh yeah, I love Under Oath, like, you know what I mean? Now it's like, oh yeah, blah blah, like, oh my god, yeah, like I'm just like so goth, like my favorite is Cardi B, and you're just like, what the fuck happened? Like,
what the hell?
Yeah.
and you're just like, and it's that it's when I feel that, like that is when I feel like it makes me sound like that salty gatekeeper person, but it's genuinely kind of jarring when you see those like you can't sit with us chicks like dressing up like the chicks they used to like torture in the bathrooms in high school. You know what I mean? It's just weird. You know?
Yeah.
It reminded me of Spider-Man. You guys see the new? I don't want to spoil anything, but did you guys see the new Spider-Man?
Yeah.
I
I
have
did.
not.
Yes.
Okay, well, never mind. But there's
You can spoil. I'll mute real quick.
It's not even that much of a spoiler. It's just like the
You
part
have
where,
to
like, you
edit
know,
this.
well, no, it's just like Ned and MJ are basically getting ostracized for being connected to Peter because everyone knows who
Yeah.
Peter is now. And then Flash comes in and it's like, oh yeah, I got into high school. And it's like, oh, you guys got into college. Like, what you did? I'm like, yeah, because we're actually friends with him. And then it's just like, oh, it's like, oh yeah, it's like, no, we didn't enjoy this in high school because we were actually goth. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, it was like the whole idea of being alternative by definition. The definition, if ever, I mean, it's kind of funny to see where it goes because when everyone's alternative, no one is. So it's like where, like, I want, like, you know, that very definition of alt fashion. Like, obviously, like the whole world isn't goth now. Like, that would be completely an absurd exaggeration. But as things normalize, it just makes me curious of what like the edgy people are gonna look like when like a lot of the normie people are now look like the goth kids from like a couple years ago.
We're gonna
But,
switch
like,
places.
yeah, do they all just like, and that is like everyone, they're all just wearing Ralph Lauren and they have like wing hair and like trucker hats and they look like cosplayers and I don't know, Sperry's.
Oh God, I won't.
I'm trying to think what else sucks? What else sucks? Puka shell necklaces. Like,
Oh gosh.
yeah, I'm trying to paint a Chad in my head right now. You know, like, but yeah, you hear what I'm saying though. It's like, but hey, I honestly like, I want to bring it to tie that off though. It's like, hey, I do think that people like Lil Peep and stuff like made a lot of those kids who probably were like angry, pent up, hetero ass dudes like to maybe open up and get in touch with their emotions a little bit and like if the you know what I mean, if those kids like who you never would have expected are like dyeing their hair and like relating to that and they're all like relating to emo culture, I mean more power to them because they're probably less likely to fucking like beat up their girlfriends one day because they're all repressed because they don't know how to deal with their feelings. You know what I'm saying? So it's
Yep.
just like
Yep,
I look at it
definitely.
as a positive thing all around.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess to start wrapping this episode up, just a quick fun little question. What music have
I
you
love
been
a
listening
fun
to
one.
lately? What type of music have you been listening to lately? The past few weeks, past few months, this year? What's been dominating your ears?
I'm actually gonna open my Spotify right now, and I will read a couple of the most recent things. I know what I've been bumping the past like couple days is the new Void of Vision EP. That shit fucking banged. It was like Landmarks meets Bad Omens meets Bring Me the Horizon. It's like I had just kind of found them. I know they've been catching traction for a little bit now.
I have not listened to it, and you have got my attention.
Yeah, so Void of Vision.
I think Derek was onto it. I don't know if he's listened to it yet, but I think he was like aware of it.
Let's
Brought it up.
see. I didn't like Varials before their last album. I liked that album a lot, but their new single they just dropped, The Cycle of Violence. That shit was really good. Let's see, what have I been jamming? Other than that? I mean, obviously, whatever, Nothing Nowhere is dropping at the moment. I was sent like I definitely liked the throwback that they did, and I didn't appreciate it at first, but they just dropped this. They're called L'Exquisite Douleur. They're like old school, like My Chem kind of post hardcore emo, like MySpace era kind of throwback. But they have a song called Vanity Dies with a Mirror in his in her. I can't click it to read the whole thing, but it's called Vanity.
Oh, it's
but
one of
that's
those
the-
long song titles from like the
Yeah,
early
I can't read the
2000s.
whole
Okay,
thing because
yeah.
it goes too far. But that was a really good song. Try to see if I have something out of pocket. I mean, the new Stand Atlantic album was cool. That band's really sweet.
Yeah, that's sitting pretty in my top 3 albums of the year right now.
Yeah, I can't. I mean, I'm obsessed with Hot Milk right now. That's another band I
Same.
like.
I fucking adore Hot Milk. I could be
yeah.
seeing them in concert tomorrow, but I have final exams.
Do it.
I have
I
final
really
exams.
I was actually back. I've actually been listening to the Air I Breathe album just because I was listening to their new song when they came back a lot. The Air I Breathe, they dropped like a new single, but they hadn't dropped an album I think since like 2011 or something. But their new song was good. The new While She Sleeps was good. I've been listening to, I always am going back and listening to Drop Dead Gorgeous. Especially because I've been listening to Boundaries and Wrist Meets Razor a little bit, and they kind of remind me of just like not seeing Drop Dead Gorgeous, but it has that like chaotic, sporadic shit with the breakdowns. I don't know if you guys remember that band, but
I was pretty late into getting into this type of music, so a lot of the early bands I missed out
do you
on.
guys, okay, I'm gonna give you guys the godfather of like scene metalcore. They're called Drop Dead, Gorgeous, and you want to listen to their album In Vogue. Like that was like my high school deliverance to just like deathcore mixed with synth and high pitched whiny singing, and I was like, this is amazing. I was like, this is the best thing I've ever heard. And then the new Drugs singles have been really good too.
Yes.
Those have been really good. I can let me drop a couple smaller bands that we actually hooked up. I mean, obviously, did you guys listen to the new Monument of a Memory album?
Yes, we just talked about that in our April recap episode we did last week.
Yeah, so that was, I was just going through bands that we played with. We just discovered this really new band called Parallels that we played with them. I think they only have like one single out, but pretty cool. It's kind of like post-hardcore emo meets like old Crown the Empire, sort of. I don't know how to describe it.
Oh, I'm listening.
And I didn't like Crown the Empire, but it had that kind of like almost like I'd say Ice Nine Kills kind of does it, where it's almost like a
Theatrical.
a theatrical guy at the circus being like, dun, 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 like
I
it
love
has
that shit.
Yeah, see, it has that. So their song "Party of One," but they're a band I want to put on because I think they have a lot of potential. I really like Palisades with their new vocalist, who I think was their bassist. Their new stuff has been good. A band actually there is a feature. I did do a feature for a boy band metalcore cover with a band called Promises Unsaid. Now that cover is not out yet, but their song Mind Play is out. And they're another up and coming band who also records with Randy Pascarella from If I Were You, which is where we recorded Hello There and Colder Than Dark. But Promises Unsaid, I'm definitely gonna plug them. And I'll give you guys one more because I'm just gonna ramble.
I listened to the first 30 seconds of Parallels because they dropped their debut single last month actually on Spotify.
Yeah, they're very new. Yep. Oh, and then my boys in Great American Ghost, their new. Check out their new song Kingmaker. They're from Massachusetts, but they're like the other. I would say if Saving Vice was like one of the biggest up and coming bands in New England, Great American Ghost is the next biggest one.
We'll
They're on
definitely
like
have to check that
they're
out.
like they're on like a world tour. They're a lot more in that vein of like stick to your guns makes knock loose kind of shit,
Okay.
but they're dope. But yeah, their song Kingmaker, I would say definitely check that out. And if you guys don't listen to Don Broco, go
We
listen to
do.
Don Broco.
We
Okay,
do.
good.
Fingernails was good.
But yeah, so that's my those are all my I hope there's a little fresh batch of shit to go listen to.
Yep.
Absolutely, yeah.
I'm definitely listening to that
Yeah.
Point of Vision.
Yeah, that shit.
I
I've
will-
had that on loop. I've had that on loop.
Justin, Jacob, anything else you want to get across before we wrap up here?
Not that I see. In the press release that was sent to us, you had like a little blurb that talked about White Rabbit. Lyrically, like, what does that song mean?
So it's like I don't know, like obviously the more you listen to our lyrics, the more you'll kind of hear it, but I'm very big on having like more than one interpretation of something melded together or layered on top of one another. So like
Yep.
there's obviously like a fantasy to the video and song that's like, hey, the girl's obviously the white rabbit and she's drawing him in and she's a trap. Like that's all you really like that's like the story of the video, but obviously we're all trapped because I'm like all on heroined out or on Molly on the fucking kitchen floor and Chase is like crossfaded to the wind, you know what I mean? And everyone's all
Right.
we're all trapped in the illusion and it's kind of hard to explain because I'm working on it right now, but I have a whole idea for a graphic novel that I want to draw that's going to combine the story plots of like all these videos we've had, especially with I don't know if you guys have noticed, but Vinny, the owner of Born Dead, is the character in like 3 of our videos, including this one. He's the main character. He was in the Hell Here video and the Echoes from the Gutter video too. So I'm basically cataloging like his journey through these videos, but they don't happen sequentially. And basically his whole story actually starts at the party where he follows the white rabbit and she ends up leading him into like all this other shit that he's going to go through where he's meeting like the twins from the Hello There cover who are in our Blackbriar video. So I'm going to turn them all into characters, but that's like the SV lore story to the video.
We're getting a whole
and
universe here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Jesus.
So it's been
Like-
something that I've
Like
kind
an
of planted.
MCU.
Like the twins have been kind of planted here and there throughout, they were on the cover of the album and they're whispering and their voices are on the album and they're in the Blackbriar video and they've kind of reappeared on some of our merch and I'm actually trying to get them out for a video for the next album too. Actually, we're working on that right now. But yeah, so essentially that's like the whole idea is like the white rabbit leads you to your temptation or to the trap. It's like she's seductive and tricks you and it's a metaphor for just like your bad habits and like recognizing the roots of your own either whether it's your trauma, your addictions or your bad decisions or your regrets like and not falling back into them and knowing better and knowing yourself enough so the whole like I found a door in the back of my eyes is supposed to be like almost like it's like the Matrix, which is kind of ironic because the white rabbit thing, which was not intentional. But it's like, oh, it's like a back door in your mind to like get out of that dark spot. Like, oh, I found where the secret way out of my own head is. You know what I mean? I know, like, oh shit, if I stay in this room, I'm gonna end up railing lines or banging prostitutes or whatever the fuck your problem was. You know, like, and that's pretty much what it's supposed to represent is just like temptation and seduction and trying to know better and like overcome it because like Colder Than Dark was just all depression and suicide and shit and horrible emotion. And then Hello There was like living with it and facing it and kind of recognizing it to a degree. And then this whole album's about like understanding it and moving on from it. So it's kind of like it's like we've tried to get less like deliberately pessimistic as the music's gone because like no one wants to hear 3 albums of us crying about the same girl, you know what I mean, like or something like that.
And there's
So
enough bands already crying about girls out there too.
Yeah, so it's like, and there's definitely still that we're always trying to find a new way to tell something that you've heard 100 times, and like not use the same lyrics, but still like obviously a lot of the reasons those things are sung about so much is because they're so relatable and so common. So like, why wouldn't you write about something that happened that was huge for you that will impact others? It's just like, okay, but if 10 people are going to write songs about hating their ex, how do you write the one that actually resonates with people and makes them feel
Yeah.
better? So I don't know. It's just all you got to have a thesaurus handy.
All right. With that, then I
That's
think
all we got.
we're good to wrap this episode up. Thank you again for joining us and
Yeah,
chatting
my
to us about
pleasure.
the new song and everything. If you want to check out the Saving Vice socials, just at Saving Vice on all social media. And then if you want to follow us at Hivemind Radio _ on Instagram, Twitter, Hivemind Radio on Spotify, and the Hivemind Radio YouTube channel, where you'll find this episode and more from us. I think that just about does it.
Oh yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming along, and
Yeah.
thank you, Audrey, for reaching out to us.
And setting
Yeah,
us
yeah.
up.
Just have to tell Derek like he was so cool and you were not.
Oh, he's gonna be miffed once he listens to this.
Yeah.
he's like I don't know why, but I just thought of Danny McBride. It's like, no, I love Saving Vice. I can't wait to sit down and ask all these questions about how they made those wonderful albums. Like, it's just like when This Is the End. He's like, I love Harry Potter. I can't wait to ask her lots of questions about how they made those wonderful motion pictures. I'm just an endless vault of movie quotes. I was actually lucky that I was able to keep it off the podcast. So.